Now, since from the past few lectures, we have seen how we can configure multiple browsers. We have tried configuring all these browsers, and then we have, in order to configure these browsers, we have to download their latest executable files as well, right? So, at times, this process is very tedious, and it may happen that, like, since we are working on Selenium, right now we are using 3.14.59. Now, prior to this, the jar version was 3.14.0. Prior to that, it was 3.13. Prior to the 3 release, it was 2.53.1, right? So things keep on changing when we have new code being added to the project, new classes being introduced, right? So their developers, they increment the build number, and they deploy the latest jar file, and then we download the latest jar file, and we like import it into our project and try using the latest classes, right? This is how things works in the industry, in any, not just automation project, in even in development, this is the same thing happens, right? Now, this thing looks fine if we are as an individual working on one single project and is responsible for maintaining everything in the project. But what if there's a team of 100 testers working on the same project? Let's say I take up example. This is very important thing to understand. See, let's say in an automation team there are 10 different testers working, right? Could be 10, could be 15, and number of testers are working. And each tester is responsible to automate their individual module, right? This is he's automating first module, then second, then third, and so on. All the testers are assigned with their own modules for automation. At the end, their task is what all things that they have automated, whatever code that they have written, they should check in the code to a centralized repository, right? It could be uh, SVN, it could be GitHub. We'll be discussing about what SVN and GitHub is in detail, in depth in our upcoming lectures. But for the time, these are centralized repository. Whatever code that we write on a daily basis, we like before we leave for our home, we actually need to check in the entire code on this centralized repository, right? So that what happens, let's say somehow this tester he leaves the organization. So once he leaves the organization, code will not going to go away with him, right? Maybe this tester, his laptop got crashed. So what about the code? The entire code, the project module that he has automated will not going to go away with that laptop crash, right? Because at the end, everyone is checking in the code to a centralized repository. So it is like a machine where the entire code is being maintained, and maintained in such a way that even if we want to see some older builds, like let's say if I talk about a practical example, so entire team have checked in the code, and the latest build that is generated is 2.12.0 version of the latest code that is there on this machine. Now maybe while checking in the code, this tester A or a developer A made some mistake while checking in the code. Now, what he want like right now the build 2.12.0 has got a buggy code, right? There are some bugs in that code. He want to revert back to a previous version that is 2.11.0. So we can easily do that revert. We can roll back to the previous release, right? So this is what a benefit of using a centralized repository, so that if any tester leaves, if a laptop get crash, so nothing should happen to the code. The code is already maintained on a centralized repository. We can anytime get a fresh copy of that code, right? So what happens, I mean, if I talk about our automation life cycle, let's say if as an automation team we are doing a check-in of the code, right? Coding as in we are using Selenium, right? We are writing code for Selenium. For that, we are using a Selenium jar as, let's say I'm using a version 2.53.1, right? And the entire team is working on 2.53.1, right? Now, all of a sudden, Selenium announces the launch of Selenium 3, right? In which they have introduced a jar file called as Selenium 3.0. Now, as this tester, what I did is I removed Selenium 2.53 from my project and I have included Selenium 3 in my project. Now, there were some new classes that were introduced in Selenium 3. And even if you have ever worked on Selenium 2.53.1, you must be aware of that there was no Gecko driver exe in case of Selenium 2. So when we used to launch Firefox browser, there was no need to give system set property in case of Firefox. Simply create an object of Firefox driver class, run it, and the browser should launch. That is how things happen in Selenium 2. Now, with the update of Selenium 3, there is a new introduction of this Gecko driver, right? Instead of Opera, we have used Gecko driver, right? So now Selenium 3 came into the market. I started using Selenium 3 and I have updated my code related to Selenium 3. And there were many new classes that were introduced that I have used in my project. But rest of the team is still working on Selenium 2.53.1, right? At the end, what happens when everyone checks in the code? When I was even leaving for home, I even checked in the code. But the code that I was using latest Selenium, right? And rest team were actually using Selenium 2.53.1, right? Now, when the code goes into GitHub onto a centralized repository, next day, what happens when we come back to the work, we take a fresh checkout of the code from GitHub or from SVN so that we should get updated code from what all modules different developers or testers were working on. We should get the updated code. Now, once we get the updated code, we have that code on our Eclipse. Once we added that code in our Eclipse, we'll start getting errors. Not this tester, but other testers will start getting errors. Why? Because this tester A has started using the classes of Selenium 3, whereas rest of the team members are still using Selenium 2.53.1, right? So they may not get latest classes because latest classes are in Selenium 3. Now, at the time when checking in the code, there is a section where we need to mention some coding comments, right? It's a standard way, it's also best practices. Like whenever you are checking in some code, you mention some comment that what all things that you are going to add to the repository, or what new changes, what code changes that you have done, right? So these are the things that we need to mention. Now, while checking in the code as a tester A, I have already mentioned that I have updated the library with Selenium 3.0. Now, whosoever take a fresh checkout of the code need to include this Selenium 3.0 jar file, right? Now, what all testers will gonna do, they'll start downloading Selenium 3 and they'll actually gonna sync their project with the latest Selenium 3.0 classes, with latest Selenium 3.0 jar. Then they'll not get any error in their project, right? But this is like about one single jar file. Now, what if we have already gone through the Java sessions, right? You may have seen that we have used Log4j. We have used Apache POI, right, for reading Excel files. Right now, these are different Java projects. Like Selenium is a Java project. Selenium has got a version 3.141.59. Similarly, POI, let's say the latest version is 3.17. Then we have used log4j, another jar file, the version, let's say 1.7. We'll use database connection. We're going to see JDBC later on with a version, let's say 2.5. So every next Java project that you're going to integrate with Selenium will going to have some version, right? Let's say if I am using Selenium right now, I want to do some Excel reading and writing. I'll right click on my project, go to build path, add external archives, and I'm going to add some jar file which is related to POI API. If I want to do some database testing, I'll add MySQL. If I want to like use log4j, then I'll be adding log4j. Click on open and you can see all the jars are added. Now it may happen that the Selenium version is changed to 3.14. So I included the latest one. So it may happen that later on there may be a change to log4j version as well. Some latest log4j jar file is there. Some latest POI jar file is there. So as a tester A, I have updated all the latest version of jar files in my project, right? I'm using all the latest one. But the team is still using log4j as 1.6, Selenium as 2.53, right? JDBC as 2.4, right? This guy is using Selenium as 2.52, then some other jar POI as 3.16, right? But at the end, if everyone checks in the code and when they take a fresh check out of the code, they'll start getting errors. So, what they should be doing is that, I mean, in order to fix the errors, just try to understand it carefully. In order to fix these errors, everyone has to be on the same plate, right? Everyone has to keep the same version of jar files on their project. So what all these team members will gonna do? They'll go to Google, they'll Google around for all the latest version of jars, and they sync their project as per these jar files, right? Because tester A is using all the latest jar. Now, if we want to get the updated code working, we need to search for all these jar files and we need to update all our projects with these jar files. So everyone in the team has to do this because this is a manual process. So it will be a time consuming process as well. So this tester B will gonna go to Google and search for Selenium jar, then POI jar, then log4. In our project, we don't just use 4 jar files. We're gonna use hundreds of jar files with different versions of APIs. So if everyone started downloading these jar files individually from Google in order to sync their project to the latest project, it will be a very time consuming task, right? The entire team will be on Google and they keep on downloading these jar files, right? And this is not a better approach. There has to be something which should be more in an automated way, right? Even not about these jar files, we talk about executable files, right now Gecko driver is like 2.3. Now let's say a new Firefox is launched, again we need to go to Selenium HQ and we need to download 2.4 Gecko driver. Same is the case with Chrome driver, with iDriver. When the browsers are upgraded, we need to upgrade the executable files as well. And it's not a task of one person, everyone will start doing these things. So this is all a manual process. Now, in order to optimize this process, what we will be using is something called as a dependency management tool, which is also a build tool. Now, first we're going to look at the dependency part. Later on, we're going to look at the build part. But in order to handle these things, in order to get these dependency management thing. Dependencies, as in these jars, are also called as dependencies because these are dependent to your project, right? Selenium jar is dependent to your project. If you don't have Selenium jar, you cannot automate your website. If you don't have POI jar, you cannot do Excel reading and writing. So these are dependencies. We need a tool which can manage these dependencies automatically, right? So for that purpose, there is a tool that is called as Maven. So Maven is our dependency management tool. So we're gonna download Maven, right? It's not just dependency management tool, it's a build tool as well. But building tasks, we're gonna look at it later on. First, we'll be looking at the dependency management task, right? And in order to do that, we need to configure Maven. So how to configure Maven? It's very simple task. Just go to Google, say download Maven. Maven comes in two parts. One is the Maven binaries that we are downloading from this link, and download it from the zip file, right? You'll get a zip file, you unzip it, you'll get it something like this, a folder of Apache Maven. I'm having 3.05. You can download the latest one. So over here you'll find it like this. There's nothing installable in Maven. You get all these files over here. So this is one way you can download Maven. Second way is Maven comes as inbuilt in Eclipse. There's a plugin of Maven in Eclipse. If you go to window preferences, you'll find Maven plugin installed over here. This is Maven. This comes as a pre-built in Eclipse, right? Although if you don't do this download, we can still work on Maven. But later on, when we start using Maven for building tasks, we would not be using Eclipse as well. We'll not be running our code through Eclipse. We may be running it through command prompt, through Jenkins. In that way, in that case, we need to configure it globally as well, right? There is nothing installable in Maven. So this is where bin folder, and this is where you'll find Maven. This is your Maven. So what you need to do, you need to configure Maven like the way we configured JDK. Just copy this path, go to edit, your system environment variables, click on environment variable, create a new system variable with a name mvn underscore home. At times you may see people create m2 home. You can do it in this way as well. You can do it in mvn home as well and paste this path. Mvn home is like Maven home. Click on OK. You'll find Maven home created over here. Same way, go to your path directory, to your path folder, click on new, type percentage mvn underscore home percentage backslash bin. Bin is the folder where Maven exists. And this is what the path you need to give. I've already given it over here. Not going to redo it. I'll delete it. Click on OK, click on OK, click on OK, and Maven is successfully configured. If you want to make sure Maven is configured or not, go over here, say, go to command prompt, say mvn hyphen version, press enter, and you'll get this message. If Java is not configured, you'll get error over here. If Maven is not successfully configured, you'll not get this message. If you are getting this message, it means Maven is successfully configured, and now you can start using Maven and automate your dependency management task, right? So this will be a very simple thing if we start using Maven. How? That will gonna look in the next lecture. All right.